Well, I didn't want to take any more time. We're supposed to begin at 11:15. So thank you all for being here today. And I know the service ended at 11:15, so it makes it challenging. So thank you for being here today. I am Kristen Larson, a member of the seminar committee, and I want to introduce Bill Ziegel, who is going to talk about dreams and aspirations. He's been heading up the capital campaign for the church, or thinking about a capital campaign for the church. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Bill. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this presentation on dreams and aspirations expressed by members of the United Church of Gainesville during our Chalk Talk last March. Your presence here today is greatly appreciated. Might have some more, I don't know. The idea is to come together to explore the UCG community's values, priorities, and perhaps a glimpse of a vision of the future. During the presentation, we'll examine the comments made by the congregation in response to our brainstorming exercise in terms of values that are important to the UCG community. By the end of the presentation, I hope you'll have a better understanding of what matters most to our community and how we might work together to meet the challenge before us. So without further ado, the next slide, please. First, let's look at what our UCG community is about. And perhaps this is best expressed by our compact, which suggests certain core values. We join as a spiritual community to worship God, however known, to welcome into our church those of differing understanding and theological opinion, to learn from our religious heritage, yet grow by seeking new dimensions of truth, to follow even imperfectly the way of Jesus in personal involvement with each other, and strengthened by this bond, to act in Christian concern for the welfare of all people. Stepping through the compact, while I will identify values expressed, you may or may not agree with my selections, but it still gives us tools to interpret the 1,200 responses that we got from the exercise. And spent a lot of time going through 1,200 responses and working with them, so that there's a lot of effort that went into this so that there may be less eye contact than usual. Okay, slide 3, please. We join as a spiritual community, to me, expresses values of unity and fellowship. In a community, individuals feel connected and supported by one another with a shared sense of purpose. This community doesn't happen automatically. It requires continuous effort to build and maintain. It involves fostering healthy relationships, resolving conflicts amicably, and promoting a culture of peace and reconciliation. Next slide, please. To worship God, however known to me, expresses values of humility and forgiveness. Humility is expressed by acknowledging that one's own understanding or way of worship may not be the only valid or meaningful one. Recognizing and respecting others' ways of worshiping God can be seen as a forgiving past hurts or misunderstandings and promoting peace and reconciliation. Recognizing others' beliefs can be done in a spirit of humility and forgiveness. Should note that it also can be done in a spirit of superiority and disdain. But the key is the attitude with which we approach understanding others. Next slide. To welcome into our church those of differing understanding and theological opinion expresses the important values of respect and diversity. Diversity refers to the range of differences that exist between individuals, including differences in ethnicity, culture, race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, and more. Respect means treating others with dignity and consideration. It involves recognizing the inherent worth and value of each individual, regardless of their background or beliefs. Embracing diversity means respecting these differences and creating an environment that's welcoming and inclusive for people from all backgrounds. Next slide, sir. To learn from our religious heritage, yet grow by seeking new dimensions of truth, expresses the value of spiritual growth. Spiritual growth involves deepening one's understanding of oneself, the divine, the world around us. It involves exploring religious or spiritual teachings, engaging in a spiritual practice such as prayer or meditation, and working to develop a stronger connection with a spiritual realm. We see spiritual growth as a lifelong journey, with individuals continually evolving to deepen their understanding of the world and their place in it. The next slide, please. To follow even imperfectly the way of Jesus in personal involvement with each other, to me, it expresses the values of love and compassion. Love and compassion are closely related and involve showing empathy and concern for others. Love involves genuinely caring about the well-being of others and is often associated with a sense of warmth and affection. And compassion involves recognizing the suffering and struggles of others. Slide 8, please. And strengthened by this bond to act in Christian concern for the welfare of all people. This expresses the values of serving and giving, both of which are part of taking action to help others in the world. Service can have a wide range of benefits, from helping individuals who need assistance to creating positive social change. Giving involves donating or sharing resources, time, talents, or skills, or others. It can involve material goods or intangible support, such as emotional support, encouragement, or knowledge. Service and giving often facilitate connections, foster a sense of community, and provide a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Now, all this is pretty interesting stuff, maybe, but how these would work in the ideal UCG community. Next slide, please. First comes the values associated with supporting our church community: unity and fellowship, spiritual growth, and humility and forgiveness. Unity and fellowship form the bedrock of the UCG community, encapsulating our shared purposes and aspiration. They foster a sense of acceptance and belonging, strengthening our collective identity while providing a safe space for individuals to share their spiritual journey. Spiritual growth is at the heart of our journey together, guiding us to deeper understanding and connection with the universe. It encourages us to continually seek wisdom, fostering personal and communal transformation. And lastly, humility and forgiveness act as the healing balm in the community. Humility reminds us of our human frailty and the need for grace, fostering a spirit of empathy and compassion. Forgiveness, on the other hand, liberates us from the bonds of resentment and bitterness, and promoting reconciliation and peace. And together, these groups of values form the pillars of our church community, providing a strong foundation for our shared faith and spiritual journey. Next slide, please. Next are the values associated with creating inclusive and welcoming environments for all people: love and compassion, respect and diversity. Love and compassion are the heartbeat of the UCG community, promoting an environment where every person is cherished and every struggle acknowledged. These values ignite a commitment to empathize, to actively extend kindness and understanding, making our community a safe haven for those in need. Respect and diversity are the foundation that uphold this haven, encouraging an appreciation for the unique tapestry of human experiences that color our congregation. Through a deep respect for individual journeys and a celebration of our collective diversity, we nurture a space where all are seen, heard, and valued. And together, these values create a community that's more than a place of worship. It's a home of inclusivity, a beacon of love, and a testament to the beauty of our shared humanity. Next slide, please. Service and giving are the twin engines that propel UCG community into action, grounding us in the belief that our compact is not just about us, but about making a tangible difference in the world. These values inspire us to move beyond our comfort zones, to actively seek opportunities where we can serve others and contribute to the betterment of our society. By embracing the spirit of service, we transform the other values of our compact into action, turning our community into a powerhouse of change. By cultivating the habit of giving, we ensure that this change is not just momentary, but sustained, creating a ripple effect that touches the lives far beyond our immediate reach. Together, service and giving turn our community into a beacon of hope, a testament of the power of our compact when coupled with action. Next slide, please. To gather data, excuse me. To gather data, we conducted a chalk talk as part of a Sunday service. And the chalk talk is a kind of discussion where members of the congregation compose short thoughts or diagrams on a large piece of paper on the covered tabletop in answer to questions posed to the group. The discussion happened last March, just after we learned of Andy's retirement, and we really had not developed any temporary transitions plans by then. Next slide, please. We considered 4 questions. What are your most audacious dreams for your family and the world? What are your most audacious dreams for UCG? What are the barriers to these dreams? And what are we called to build to bring these dreams to reality? In the context of these questions, why the word audacious refers to something that's extremely bold or daring or fearless. Next slide, please. When someone asks the most audacious dreams, they're asking about your biggest, bravest, and most ambitious dreams or goals, ones that seem overly ambitious or even impossible to others, but you dare to dream and strive for it anyway. And it could be pushing dreams that are on the grand scale or innovative in nature, pushing the boundaries of what's commonly accepted or expected. So I say we have over 1,200 indicators of dreams and barriers that were recovered. Some of us express dreams of specific issues, such as social justice, or environmental sustainability, economic growth, or improving the quality of life in the wider community. Oh, thank you very much. Very helpful. We should gargle. Others thought of a shared vision for UCG's physical space or communal endeavors. These dreams and pieces of dreams express our values and our questions, and the questions viewed those values from 4 different viewpoints: the family, the world, the church, and how to deal with barriers. And the barriers fit into categories that provide a framework for identifying and understanding them. And once the barriers are identified, appropriate strategies can be developed to address them. Next slide, please. But some other concerns are also raised as a result of these results. Our community is like a mirror reflecting the world's chaos and grapples with key concerns that echo the shared anxieties of our times. Firstly, our physical safety is under threat, a testament to the escalating violence and strife that plagues our world. This concern embodies our collective yearning for peace and a haven from turmoil outside. Secondly, the health of our planet is in jeopardy, mimicking the environmental crisis that engulfs the globe. This worry reflects our recognition of the interdependence of life and our responsibility toward Mother Earth. And together, these concerns not only highlight the madness of the world around us, but also the community's resilience and determination to rise above it. Next slide, please. The first question was, what are your most audacious dreams for your family and the world? This question asked about the family and the world. Most dreams expressed were response on a family view, but there was a distinct group that were about the planet. And so I separated them into two. Slide 17, please. The results listed here for the family. And they're listed in order of the number of times that were indicated in the 201 dreams for families. Now, I can do that. Spiritual growth, I just put them in order, descending order here. Spiritual growth was 21% of the responses. Cultivating a greater sense of peace, purpose, and connection in your life by pursuing practices, learning opportunities that allow for personal transformation. Respect and diversity values were next. Valuing diversity, treating all with respect despite their background or beliefs. Love and compassion came in third, showing kindness, empathy, and understanding, particularly toward those struggling or in need. The unity and fellowship value counted for about 14%, a wanting to feel connected and supported by one another and a shared sense of purpose. And the service and giving value came in at 10%. Volunteering, donating to charitable causes, or simply helping out a neighbor in need. At about 8% came the maintaining of a safe and supportive neighborhood. Humility and forgiveness came in at about 5%, seeking forgiveness, admitting mistakes, extending grace to others. And at 4% was family concern about caring for the planet by increasing environmental consciousness. And this fingerprint of dreams for our families will keep the same horizontal order in the other graphs to follow, so that you can kind of compare them as they go through. The dreams for our family suggest that we feel the values of spiritual growth, respect and diversity, love and compassion, and unity and fellowship are crucial when envisioning the future of one's family. Spiritual growth deepens our connection with life's purpose, guiding us through uncertainties with grace and resilience. Respect and diversity instill an appreciation for individual uniqueness, creating a family tapestry rich in perspectives and experiences. Love and compassion cement the bonds of the family, ensuring a nurturing environment where every triumph is celebrated and every challenge is faced together. Unity and fellowship fortify this familial bond, fostering a sense of togetherness that transcends generations. And these values may serve as the guiding stars for a family's journey, shaping a future that is harmonious and hopeful. Next slide, please. The 141 dreams of the world had a very different distribution. Concern for the health of the planet, of course, number one at almost a third of the responses. And expressions of the need for more unity and fellowship in the world came next. And then a need for more respect and diversity, as well as a need for more service and giving. The need for love and compassion is the next one on. And a concern for a safer world for all, as it came in at about 6%. Need for spiritual growth in the world, 4%. A need for humility and forgiveness in the world. Probably a lot more is needed, but it came in at 3% here. Yeah. Concern for the health of our planet, along with the values of unity and fellowship and respect and diversity, are crucial in shaping a sustainable and harmonious world. An earnest concern for the planet cultivates a sense of stewardship for the environment, prompting actions that preserve the earth for future generations. Unity and fellowship promote global collaboration, ensuring a collective action against shared challenges such as climate change. Respect and diversity, meanwhile, foster an atmosphere where all cultures, perspectives, and solutions are acknowledged and appreciated. And these values collectively are a compass that could guide humanity's voyage toward a balanced and inclusive world. That's more or less what it says. Next slide, please. The second question was, what's your most audacious dreams for UCG? There are 251 responses to this. The fingerprint that's shown in the next slide is shown with the fingerprint for the family. Comparing the patterns of the church with the patterns for our families illustrates some similarities and some differences. The pattern of the church is dominated by the values of unity and fellowship and service and giving. Sounds logical. These are followed by respect and diversity, love and compassion, and spiritual growth. And the pattern is, with a couple of anomalies, pretty much the same as what we've said for the family. Unity, fellowship, service, and giving are the fundamental pillars for the spiritual community, creating a shared ethos that fosters profound change, a profound sense of belonging. Unity forms the bedrock, binding diverse individuals to share a pursuit of enlightenment. Fellowship enhances the collective journey, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences and mutual support. Service, through selfless action, underscores our inherent interdependence, while giving serves as a tangible expression of our commitment to our communal welfare. Complementing these primary values are the secondary but essential values of respect and diversity, love and compassion, and spiritual growth. Respect and diversity would ensure that every voice is valued, every perspective honored, nurturing a vibrant, inclusive spiritual ecosystem. Love and compassion infuse the community with warmth, fostering an environment where kindness is the norm, not the exception. Lastly, spiritual growth, the ultimate goal for any spiritual community, is nurtured, encouraging members to evolve, thrive, and reach their highest potential in their spiritual journey. Together, these values illuminate a path toward a fulfilling, harmonious spiritual existence. Next slide, please. This leads us into the consideration of the third question, an examination of the 352 barriers identified in the congregation that hinder the achievement of their dreams. Next slide, please. Achieving dreams is a complex task, fraught with myriad boundaries that span personal, social, and systemic spectrum. Personal barriers are the largest group, 45% of the responses. These include lack of commitment in our congregation, desire to maintain the status quo, fear of failure, self-doubt, personal time constraints, need for sustained financing, and competing personal priorities. The next largest group were the social barriers at 29%. This refers to the external controls on individual freedom maintained by the society in which we find ourselves. The vast majority of these constraints were political at the state and national levels. These include factors such as polarization, authoritarianism, corruption, the lack of representation that limits our ability to participate. And there were some environmental concerns, about 3%, that were also identified. And these include factors such as natural disasters, climate change that limit our ability to access resources or engage in certain activities. Next slide, please. Systemic barriers are the structural and institutional obstacles within the UCG community. It's about 24% of them. Some things can be changed and some cannot. These are described as a need to develop a plan to get us through difficult times. Well, we're working on that. An aging congregation and aging buildings and infrastructure are not going to change quickly. Issues associated with our management and the competing need to expand our mission may be managed. Next slide. Now let's consider the answer to the fourth question. What are we called to build to bring these dreams to reality? Dreaming in today's world is challenging. The issues are well known: COVID-19 pandemic, racial, political unrest, economic stress, rising concerns over environmental issues, workforce challenges, demographic changes expected but not understood. In this setting, we dare to dream, confront barriers in our dreams, and seek to drive a strong, progressive, resilient, and resourceful church community on a continued success in an evolving city, state, nation, and planet. This is not new territory for UCG. Since its founding in 1965, this community has consistently shown an ability to innovate and to attract outstanding members, staff, and partners. Next slide, please. The values expressed by the 233 suggestions we received are most interesting. And we're showing them along with the dreams for the church. The two values underpinning this vision are the same two underpinning the church dreams: unity and fellowship, service and giving. However, it doubles down on unity and fellowship as the best response to the barriers. It suggests that in overcoming barriers, UCG will find its strongest allies in the values of unity and fellowship and service and giving. Next slide. Unity and fellowship nurture the communal fabric, creating safe space where diverse voices are heard, respected, harmonized into a powerful chorus. This shared bond becomes a beacon of hope in times of adversity, fostering resilience and mutual support. Service and giving, on the other hand, next slide, are the embodiment of selflessness, propelling the UCG community towards the collective goal. They inspire acts of kindness and generosity, transforming barriers into stepping stones toward progress. Together, these values form the bedrock of our community, guiding it toward growth, inclusivity, and the fulfillment of its shared vision. Next slide. In addition to responses used in assessing values of importance for UCG, we also received almost 40 specific suggestions that range from enticing Vince or Andy back to starting a preschool program for disadvantaged children with transportation provided. And they've all been passed on to church management. Thank you for your attention. The seminar is now open to you.
And we'll have microphones, so please be sure to wait for that. Let's see your comment. Very comprehensive.
I just want to say that Bill took this on. He did this work, and it's a tremendous amount of work, from starting with 1,200 responses to getting us this summation. Is amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm retired. What are you going to do?
I want to thank Bill too. Tony's right. I mean, Bill really stepped up to. We were a little overwhelmed with the input from the Chalk Talk, which largely was motivated by the capital campaign scoping exercise. But I think, what we found and what Bill outlined is a larger sort of strategic vision and insight into the church. Because when you look at the feedback on barriers, we were looking at this from a capital campaign perspective, but most of the barriers identified were not infrastructural. And I think there's lots of challenges associated with that. One of them is, within the context of a capital campaign, what can we do that supports these other values that aren't related to infrastructure. So I think over the next few months, we're going to be working with the congregation to sort of finalize what that physical vision and physical infrastructural needs are that support those larger, less concrete barriers and goals. So to me, that's the thing that we still need to wrestle with.
You as well. It's been fabulous, and I love the idea of the preschool for disadvantaged children, because I think that would address not only expanding our mission, but also possibly increasing membership. And I think both those things would be addressed.
Carol Barron here. I'm on the Committee of Building and Grounds, and I'm a little worried that the infrastructure, the maintenance, the deferred maintenance is not as focused, and I fear part of it has to do with uninformed congregants, like they don't know really all. We don't have the capacity to have a preschool here. You know, we don't have the bathrooms, we don't have handicapped accessibility. And so I think that there's going to, hopefully more will come from this to see where we can have more informational sharing with the congregation so that they understand how important the capital campaign is in regards to carrying out these missions that are more important to them.
Last spring, and a lot of information has come out regarding particularly the infrastructure, so that you start talking service and giving. Why we might be talking about what fit there.
Campaign, has that started yet, or we just we're talking, and we have somewhere a list of the 18 major projects that to keep the physical capacity and fix it up, right?
We actually are the 18.
What?
The 540 pages that has been identified of deferred maintenance. And so we've had some generous donations that have paid for a lot of those systems to be replaced, and major concerns, safety, health concerns. However, the capital campaign has a big wish list, like there's rebuilding the bathrooms for handicapped accessibility. That's in the works for design right now. A commercial kitchen is in the design. We need figures to be able to put it on the capital campaign. The eastern parking lot, the western parking lot, the courtyard. We're working on those figures, and the only way we can do it is design it and then bid it out, so we can give you all an idea how much it would cost to fulfill your vision.
$1 million to do these things, and this is what we need, and then we get our little thermometer of giving. Okay.
And just a reminder, the microphone is for those who are on Zoom. So do speak up, because there definitely are enough people in here that your voice, you want to make sure it carries.
Glenn Acom here. Bill, on one of the charts, and I can't remember which one, talking about our aspirations, there were high marks on the left-hand part of the slide that struck me that those aspirations were largely community-oriented, interpersonal, those things that the church gathers, wants to be together and do things. And it strikes me that those desires connect to the physical needs in improvements to enable us to have those interactions. So if I'm reading that correctly, the connection of wishing for that to happen to strengthen our relationships within the congregation, and I'm not belittling any of the external things that we do, then the physical infrastructure to be able to do that, the restroom facilities, sewer and water, how we use our physical plant become very important. So if I'm not misreading it, that was a connection I saw. It was in the aspirations.
Yeah,
Um,
let's see, that would be,
and it had 3 or 4 bars that were strikingly tall on the left-hand half of
yes,
the chart.
could be, slide 17, if that's possible to figure out. Yes, that one there.
It was further back than that.
Oh, this is the one for the families, which is descending this way. It's set up that way.
1 or 2 before this. No?
Well, that's the first one. The second one is this one. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, not that one.
Right.
This one.
Okay. The dreams for our families, what struck me
Right.
was if you take those first 4, that's the community of UCG and the desire to interact as much as we can together to grow as a fellowship.
Right.
We're really high on the list, and that was the connection I made.
Yes. In the church presentation, why it has the same sort of distribution, except these 2 are higher.
And that makes sense, yes.
That makes sense.
My observation, but it made it to me.
Yes.
Daryl Hartman. I think the chalkboard is a great exercise. We should do probably once a year just to have that chance to express ourselves collectively and individually. And Bill, I agree. You did a great job of putting all this together and giving us this comparisons. I'm confused. But Glenn, you said helped a lot. I'm confused. I'd like to hear from people who have a sense of how can this help us move forward? What's the takeaway from this that can help us do whatever we're going to do in a very apparently
One next one like this was a 2.
how do we?
Yes, that one.
I just have to hear people away from this that can help us.
The takeaway is approximately that the sense for getting around. Let's see. Actually, it's a later one. The one in response to the barriers had unity fellowship. It doubled virtually the size of that as compared to everything else. And service and giving was up as well. So that the message in terms of values is the things that will help us through the barriers are unity and fellowship and service and giving. So what can we do to keep service and being able to do what we do? Well, you got to keep the infrastructure up. You've got to keep the people available. You've got to do that. And we need exercises in which we develop the unity and fellowship, have fun together, have ways of building that togetherness so that we can weather through all of this. That's the sort of the bottom line here. What I should have up here is the one getting around barriers.
I think looking at that, those family values and so on, big 4, not being a big churchgoer for most of my life, it struck me how universal those values are for all folks, for all human beings that attend worship. And it just seems like a very universal result in whatever of why people come to service.
Hey, Betsy Dodd, here. Daryl, the answer that popped into my head when you asked the question of what is this about, I was kind of grappling with that early on. And to me, it's like data. Data is telling us, on one hand, reality tells us we can't do everything. We cannot put resources and energy and time into every worthy cause out there. So the data tells us, when we all got together and talked, is what's the most important thing? Where do we agree? What's the most prioritization of what do we agree is important moving forward? So it makes sense that you put your energy and your finances into the things that everybody agrees is important. I think there's a statistical test for that, but I don't know it.
Right.
But that's what it says to me.
Yep. Well, the unity and fellowship is more or less an internal thing, whereas the service and giving is what we do action. So that it's an expression of that.
And my outlook is more service and giving oriented, and with respect to the community. I love Gainesville, I love our church, and I love the interface between the two. And so I've been giving, for example, to Food for Kids forever. I've participated with CWC, the Community Weatherization Coalition. That's part of our church. I'm asked now to be a liaison between our C3J committee and the church with regard to CWC, for example. CWC is suffering from a 50% cut in the city's donation to their budget. So there are issues like that that are external, a lot of them. I mean, I deal with climate all the time. I'm on the NAACP committee for environmental justice. So I like the concentration on interface between our community as a whole and the church, and to overcome barriers concerning our ability to get beyond ourselves.
Yeah.
But I view a lot of that as individualistic. I do all that on my own pretty much in terms of volunteerism. But so I see that we can do both. We don't have to be so concerned about gathering our strength and directing it when we have a lot of individuals who are very committed and people who are retired and can give of themselves.
Would you go a little bit further? Next one.
I think this is a really excellent summary of our values, but it seems to me what we need now is for some people to sit down and come up with a concrete action plan. What are the things that we're going to, the steps we're going to take to live out these values that have been identified? And so that's the piece that's still missing, I think, is, you know, what are we going to do?
Tony Miller, I think for me, a takeaway is that whatever we do in terms of trying to raise money needs to be in service to the values of unity and fellowship and service and giving. That raising money is one thing, the purpose, the reason we're doing this is something where we really have to be together, that it has to support our sense of who we are as a community. That's not easy, but I think it's really crucial.
The transition, one of the things that I brought up is that there are a lot of changes happening around us right now. And while there are points about people who are able to put more time and put themselves, understanding that because of the fact that people who are important for these experts are leaving, like lots of activist leaders are leaving, doctors who support or lots of mental health professionals are leaving, like my family included. We are leaving because of everything happening. And so some of the things that we might dream to happen for this church, they have to change. It may have to change because some things just will not be available. And I also brought up how younger people are leaving. People who have the spirit to run these things, who have the spirit to come do these things. And I mean this in the nicest way possible, but not all of us will be here forever. Not everybody in this room at this church will be here long enough to see the actions that we do make a difference. And the people who are supposed to follow after us are not coming to Florida anymore. So that is something that I believe should be taken into account.
I had an opportunity to see this text, and Bill presented it to me before he did it today. And my suggestion is that it be put online so that others can see it, because I think it's a good, thoughtful research that we could use in many ways and in many committees. So my suggestion is that we ask Bill to put it online through the church.
Jane Emery, we have to remember this is a qualitative survey. I don't know, one coder, you were the one coder. I think it would be helpful to see actually the richness of the statements. You gave a lot of great examples. So I come here first and foremost for the spiritual growth. There's a lot of opportunities for civic engagement, climate engagement, social justice engagement, and that sort of thing. So I look at this and I say, these are our values, humility and forgiveness. Really? I've been here 12 years. Maybe I haven't been paying attention, but I don't get that message often. Service and giving, social justice, racial justice, yes. Do an audit of our small groups and say which code the small groups. Social, recreational, again, fabulous. But what does UCG give me that I can't get at a library book club or a civic club or going to the library or helping at the schools? Okay, so for me, it's let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. And, you know, I mean, it's awesome when surveys reflect the norm here. Is it really a value, humility and forgiveness? I don't know. We'd have to measure that differently, I think, than an answer to what are your most audacious dreams. I love the categories, and with Carol, it's like, I don't think of an audacious dream of fixing the toilets over in the, yeah, I just don't. With that question, it's a fabulous question. So we're starting to mix some of these different questions, right? So again, this is a qualitative survey, and I really appreciate it. It was probably hundreds of hours of your time. But we're a church. We're a spiritual community. I just want to make sure that we have spiritual offerings and intentionality around those spiritual values. One of which, or two of which, are service and giving and social justice. So thank you all. That was a very long-winded response, but blah, blah, and other people can get it and react. That's good.
Re-emphasize one of the reasons and whatever that my wife and I attend UCG is the interpersonal contact between other human beings, person to person, face to face, eyeball to eyeball. And I think that is a very human response, I think, in the world that we live in right now. And as I said, The last 2 years are the first time in my 70 years that I have attended worship services on a regular basis. So there is some success in what you are doing. I urge you to continue along those lines so we can attract more folks who would like to experience that interpersonal contact as well as that spiritual growth.
And my grumpy ladybug comment is that I like everything about what we do. I like the interpersonal. I like that we're social justice, but I find myself saying, you know, I get my politics from reading the New York Times in the morning. I don't need to come to UCG for the politics. I get the connection between politics and you know, service and giving and social justice and all that. But I come here for spiritual growth, or call it what you will, for becoming a better person, for learning how to be, how to get along with people, learning how to become a better human being. I like meeting my friends here. And I've seen a real pivot in that direction the last year. Although before that, I was thinking, yeah, it's just politics, politics, politics. And I'm just getting, that's not what I come to church for. So that's my little sermon. Yeah.
Really joy of the person and the person to person and the spiritual growth. Why I as well.
Hello, it's me again. So, one thing that I think about this politics is that a lot of people who are under oppression with the current day's politics come to this church. And that is why they come to this church, because we are a safe place for them. And we do activism for them on the side of politics. For example, there are multiple people in our community who are transgender who come here for the fact that this is one of the few accepting churches in Gainesville who does political activism for transgender people. And so while this is a church community and it is a spiritual community, we also have to keep in mind that the people here have different values of what is considered their spiritual understanding. Like for me, I grew up in Catholic church, so my spiritual understanding may be different than someone else's. Or people in the United Church of Christ have different ways of how they express their spiritual identity. And for some people, that is activism and politics. And we have also had lots of groups here. I remember I came to one of these seminars about depolarization between both political parties so that we don't have to talk about politics so much. Or believe it or not, a lot of us here, and some people in this room, have people in their lives who are so very deeply connected to politics that it's something that we can't really get away from. And especially here in Florida, it is something that we are not able to really shut out even if we wanted to. And especially with the values of this church, I do not believe that there would be a way to have our values and ignore, not necessarily ignore, but not focus on the fact that some of our values do cause political problems and other people do not agree with us sometimes for their political view. And it's something that we cannot really get away from. Even if we up our spiritual events, there is still going to be politics no matter what. Unfortunately, basic human respect and our own views and opinions have become a part of a political opinion. So.
I'm not sure how I'm going to say this, but for me, all of those things are related to my spiritual growth. When I come here and I'm talking with other people, I learn from other people. learn to feel what they feel. When I'm inspired to take some action by politics or whatever, to me, that's part of my spiritual growth. And I really don't find that I need to separate spiritual growth from any of that.
We got everybody?
Thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Oh, wow. Thank you.